killed the market for, of course. So now this had killed the market for, of course.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen that are watching me here on Black Hot Power Network. It is a Tuesday. Today is 9 of July 2024, and it is when I look at my time here, um, when I look at my time, there are 46 minutes past 4. So it is already afternoon, actually evening here in Kampala, Uganda. I don't know, like for different people that are watching me from different areas, you have at times different time zones. It may be afternoon wherever you are. It can be morning, depending on the time zone. But it is evening here in Kampala, Uganda. My name is INNOSSETU, together with my colleague Africa Maria. She's around, and we are here to deliver. Where's the Sachi? Where's the Sachi? We are here to deliver Mbeko. So today being a Tuesday, um, our topic today is about like Africans. Like at the times we have topics here, but who is an African? Who is considered to be an African? Who is an African? Someone abaana nga batabuse So um, our topic today being like who is an African. At the end of this show, we shall be able to understand who is an African.
People may be out there confused.
Hey, they are confused about their identity. We have to, actually we talk we are
The European from Africa, they say.
uh, we had a lot we have had a lot of discussions about culture, about tribalism, ethnicity in Africa. Like we even once had a topic here about, of course, African continent. Now, who are the Africans? Who is an African? Who is considered to be an African? And what does it take for you to be an African? So, uh, when you ask someone, simply, if you find, if today we move around on the streets and you ask different people, make interviews about who is an African, 96% of the people you find on the streets, on the way, they will tell you that an African is a person who comes from Africa,
Yep.
who lives in Africa. Actually, some people, a certain group of people will tell you an African, these are people that come from Africa. Then another group will tell you that an African is a person who lives in Africa.
Mm.
But in reality, we have Africans that are outside Africa.
Mm.
But another person will tell you that an African, these are people that their mother and father, they are pure Africans.
Mhm.
Of which it doesn't, of course, bring to conclusion of the true African, because even we have had people that have got interracial relationship marriages and they have got mixed babies, the moms, they are still Africans. Kitegeera?
Ojja kukubegula yava munsi y'abantu. Mama wajja kugira wa.
Tebadduka kitegeeza ba Africans.
Tugamba balina abatabula. Ogamba balina abantu abatabudde.
Right. So the word, the topic of course, the real, what we mean by being an African, it starts with the geographical part of it. Origin, where your forefathers originated from. Okitegeera? The origin. Like I said, there are a lot of Africans that are outside Africa. Okitegeera? So, to me, if your forefathers, if your grannies, they were here in Africa, or they have ever been in Africa, they were pure Africans. I don't mean colonialists, because they are also here. And they're not our forefathers. Okitegeera? They are what? You are an African. Okitegeera? So, being an African, it starts with the geographical part, the geographical origin of your identity, where you originate from. Before you start saying that, for me, I'm not an African. Okitegeera? You're in Ethiopia, you say you're not an African. Of course, you're even within Africa, and you still say that you're not an African. The geographical origin of your ancestors, of your forefathers, foremothers, foregrandfathers, it is here on African soil. You're an African. Okitegeera? So that's how we start, of course, identifying the Africans. So our true history lies mostly on our origin. Okitegeera? That's why when you look at the history that we are having today, history that is taught in schools, it doesn't explain well our origins, and our origins identify our identity. Because when you get to know that Maria comes from the western part of Uganda, you know how people from the western part of Uganda behave. You draw a picture. INNOSSETU comes from the central. You draw a picture how those people behave. Eh? How those people identify themselves, because now we are divided,
Yeah.
that on tribal basis. So when someone tells you that someone comes from the eastern part or the northern part of Kenya,
Mm.
then you draw a picture, an immediate picture in your head of how those people
Right.
look like, how they behave, how they survive, how they do whatever stuffs they do in their lives. Hmm?
Mm.
So why I say that being an African, it starts with the geographical origin. Together.
Mm.
So it is better when you identify yourself as an African. It is better to know your origin.
Mm.
Together. We've heard of tribes like the Tutsi in Rwanda
Mm.
that, of course, migrated from Ethiopia.
Mm.
Together. And actually, they're even proud to say that
Mm.
about traveling from Ethiopia.
Mm.
Together. So that's how we start, of course, identifying who an African is. But of course, uh, Africa, the Africans have a lot of things, like we normally say, a diversified cultural heritage that can also help in identifying who an African is. Together. But that is easy to identify. The cultural heritage is easy. However much it is manipulated, a lot of things do things that they call culture, but to me, I see they are not culture. Together. A lot of things have been, even here in Uganda, when you look at the cultural part of it, it has been manipulated. Together
Mm.
by a lot of things. Actually culture, wherever it has been manipulated and duplicated.
Mm.
A lot of people do Western kind of culture, and they call it African culture. Together.
Mm.
A lot of When you look at African marriages, stuff, all these things have been manipulated. So you can't base on culture only to identify yourself as an African, because a lot of people, they're not African, but they are doing African culture.
Mhm.
Together.
Mm.
So culture, you can't base on culture only. Together. We know culture has a lot. It has languages, it has norms, those cultural symbols, dances, stuff, a lot of things culture have. But the geographical origin, it is something that someone can't skip out when he's identifying himself as a culture,
As an African.
as an African. Sorry, as an African. So Africans, when we look at the Africans that are living within Africa, I don't know. Actually, I need some help from Oba Jibijaba, Oba Kik, by the way.
Williams.
Comedians lost over Geno Mosquito. I don't know how those people, of course, behave or identify themselves wherever they are. They are. However, a number of them they say they are not Africans. A number of them say they are Africans. But however much they say they are not Africans, they are segregated as what? As Africans. That's why I always say oppressors or the Bazungu have not forgotten the identity of Africans. Again, though as we Africans, we are forgetting who Africans are.
In other words, they know us more than we know.
That's why they
ourselves.
segregate us. That's why they segregate us, because they know our true identity.
Mm.
Again, and they know how to deal with us like
Mm.
this. But for us, we have not learned enough to deal with those people. So Africans, when we look at the Africans within Africa, together, uh, there is something that is missing within Africa. When you go outside Africa, at least things become simplified. But when you're within Africa here, it is very and very difficult to find someone identifying himself as an African.
Mm.
They will identify themselves depending on their tribes.
True.
Check it out.
True.
If you find someone from Kenya, say, oh, where do you come from? Someone will tell you, for me, I'm Kikuyu, I'm staff. But check it out. I'm in Uganda. That's why a lot of Kenyans, they think all Ugandans are Uganda.
Mm.
But check it out. They
Mm.
say that Uganda guy. They think they're what?
All of
So
them are
they are
Baganda.
they identify they identify. It is not only in of course in Uganda or Kenya stuff. Even when you go to Rwanda, people will identify themselves as
Hutus
Tutsi
and
and
Tutsis.
Tutsi. The other tribes we see in other countries, Zimbabwe, Nigeria, Chitegera,
Mm.
Costa, Igbo,
I'm a Yoruba.
Yoruba,
I'm an Igbo man.
Igbo. So that's how people. It is very difficult for someone to identify themselves as Africans.
Mm.
But if at all, not all people that are living here on this continent, Africa, that they are Africans, we have the Bazungus here.
Yeah.
But what, like, why is it? Let me ask you this: why is it that it is very difficult to see people calling themselves Africans? I'm an African from Uganda. I'm an African from Kenya. I'm an African from Zimbabwe. I'm an African from South Africa. However, the South Africans, they, but the tribal thing is not too much. They will just say, I'm a South
It
African.
is.
It is, but it's not too much, like not too much as such. Because when you find South Africans, wherever they are, they will say, I'm a South African.
Mm.
It's very difficult for them. Or maybe they are not proud. Wait a second. If they will say, I'm a South African, staff, I'm a South African.
Apart from the Zulus who are very proud.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm a Zulu. Um, um, I think first of all, a lot of Africans don't know about Africa. Okay. And to be told, some of them even they don't know that they live in a continent called Africa. And some of them don't even know that there are other countries beyond the borders of their country. So there is a lot of reasons why a lot of people you will I've never let me say when someone you will a lot of Africans, for example, uh, you will hear a lot of Africans who cannot pronounce Uganda.
Mm.
All right. Someone will say that is Uganda. Someone will say that is they probably they don't know how it's written. They hear it. Someone will say one thing we know about it. There is a source of the Nile. That side, the Nile starts from Uganda. Now you'll be asking like you are an African and you cannot just say that African word. Some other people, when you talk about Congo, one thing that is gonna come in their mind is that big forest, the Ituri forest, and you have in short pygmies, the short pygmies and the Ituri forest and others. When you see this, from my observation, I came to realize that a lot of people know nothing about cross border, and we have not been told a lot about Africa. Okay. Now, when we are studying in Africa, we study about apparently it's compulsory. Let me say in Uganda to study about East Africa because it's the region where we are. It's right. And I believe probably the same with others. If they're in West Africa, it is compulsory for them to learn their region. But from there, then we have history of South Africa and history of West Africa. All right. So you're supposed to choose from these others. If you're going to do West Africa or South Africa, so you choose, but they don't teach like all of them at once unless you're going to be a student of basically history, and that is probably when you're specializing. That's when you are in higher institution. So apart from that, um, you get to learn what is told in the history. What we are learning about South Africa in schools is basically the major stories that are told about South Africa is of course apartheid policy and how it was run, Nelson Mandela, and other prominent politicians during and after South Africa's, of course, independence, and then boom, that is done. The whole syllabus about South Africa is done. And when we come to, of course, the western part of Africa, we're going to learn about, of course, Nigeria. We're going to learn about Ghana and its economy. All right, we're going to know how it was a Gold Coast and how Ghana was good in cocoa, sisal, and other things. And of course, we're going to look at Nigeria's oil. And now we're trying to study Africa's region. And then we're going to look at, of course, the migrations, and also not to forget the slave trade. And then we are going to, of course, look at the Caliphate from Senegal. We also study about, how the entire West African kingdoms. We're going to study about Mali, have one of the great kingdoms. We're going to study about Musa, one of the richest guys. So we're going to study about the ancient education. But most of these things are just a little bit. It is just an introduction, all right, to something. You don't go in there for this to make you love what you said. And I remember when I was studying history, all I used to laugh was about the names of the West Africans. Those people before had some huge names, and they would sound a little bit, everybody would be in class, they're waiting to listen to the West African names. We could even name our teachers. But we did not study about a lot of things that we were supposed to study. And but as we grew up, you'd say, well, I have to study about Musa and see like why. And then you decide that this is you trying to, of course, add on that little knowledge. And then, there are some people even who don't know we had a great man called Kabalenga. There are some people who don't know even what Mwanga did. They don't know that we had a great man called Mwanga. And even some others in Uganda don't even know. So you can understand the reason why a lot of people don't fall in love with the countries in Africa, the countries that are beyond the borders of their country. They are less informed about the existence of this country, the countries, sorry. They are less informed about the beautiful things in this country. Apart from someone saying they have got beautiful women, this is usually a disappointment for me if someone's going to describe a country by they have got beautiful women who are curvy, they have got handsome men who have got whatever, some good nice cucumber. Is this really important for the entire Africa's development? Is it important for us? So you can see that we have silly things that we always look, and when we get to those people who apparently are out there to spread or probably talk about the country, somebody's going to be seriously talking about false stories, myths, things that I've never heard. All right, in the other country, we have got cannibals. Okay, recently we have seen in Uganda, they have been discovered, and then probably we have seen Ugandan people. There is usually a Nigerian lady I usually see. I'm someone who loves, hello, it's 10:08. I'm late for school. I'll sit in the back, teacher. Tutuba, you're welcome. You're welcome. There is a lady I usually see. She's trending, and she's trending for negativity. Forget this one who says in Africa we don't have toilet paper, we have papers or leaves or stuff. Um, Forget that one. There is a Nigerian lady, and at times there are stories. I don't know where she gets the stories from, but in real concept, those things cannot be true. And most of the times, she's only telling stories that are even not true. Because when you talk about Uganda, at least I know, apparently most of the stories about Uganda, you can lie about any other, and you cannot be a Nigerian and know the stories that is happening in Uganda better than me. Very impossible. But she'll be having a lot of people. She'll be talking about a lot of things, and she chose to, of course, aim at negativity most of the time. Um, and at times I look at her and I'm like, how do you even sleep when you're so comfortably on a media or on a mainstream where the entire world is going to see your content, and all you know to do best about Africa is to select each country and start talking whatever, even to the countries you've never been before. You talk full scaring stories and all that. We growing up, we had myth stories that would scare children, all right? And these things nurtured, you know, not everyone, these things nurtured children to be who
They-
they are now. Someone tells you a story that you know why you have to stay a virgin, the young girl, because if you think that the man you're going to lay with on your honeymoon or your wedding night or the night that you have been given to this man will not let us know. Someone is going to say, because there is always a story that we've got Ugandan aunties lying under the bed, when their daughters are having the first sex with their first men. This was a story that was created to scare the ladies to know that if I break my virginity before I get married to my husband, definitely my family is going to find out. And everyone, and this has been a secret that even the ones who are married will never tell the unmarried. But deep, they know this is something that was created to put the young girls in order. And the same story went to the young boys. And so a Nigerian comes from the blue. You're talking and you're sweating and you don't know the true concept behind this story. And you're so extremely serious, like you've ever been, like your auntie has ever been under your bed before. So we have this is the issue now. All right. How is someone going to respect such an incident? From there, someone is definitely going to say, we have got other people, in this country, they do a lot of stuff. And most especially when someone is talking about witchcraft, see, when you're talking about witchcraft, see, fine. There are some people who believe in spirituality, all right? But you've even never seen one witch before, and you are sitting and telling stories. So this is the issue that really Africa has. And me, I'm not someone who just listens. Of course, paid, good sleek, it's a universal problem. Exactly, Jibjaba. Exactly. Michelle E says, my childhood Palestinian friend told me this as well. This is Michelle E. Michelle, of course, says he's a Palestinian. Like, told him the same story as well. So these things keep on going. So there are a lot of things actually. You see, there is where we saw there is a video where people are making mwenge bigede. You know that. So I think it was a white man who was, of course, showing this kind of wine that is made traditionally, and the way it was being made and all that, everyone was that it is so disgusting. It was disgusting because the skin of that person who was making that wine was black. We see the way people make wine from their grapes. People step in with their feet, but because probably their toes are white, maybe they look more clean. I don't know. And the Lord, people be doing la 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 la. People started talking. This is so disgusting. People it's like we cannot take this kind of bullshit. How can Africans be making their wine like this? It's extremely so disgusting now. You can't. And then I was asking myself, people be buying wine all the time that is made by the feet of the white people, and they are extremely excited about taking it. What is it about a black person making it the same way? Why are you even complaining about this? It is okay for someone who doesn't take the wine made by the Italians to say it is disgusting, but it is so unfair for you only to think it is only a white person who is clean when making wine. So you can see we have a lot of people out there talking just ill rather than focusing on the truth about Africa. Now, I was replying to a question, of course, INNOSSETU. I was, of course, trying to ask. Now, a lot of people don't even know because someone may. I've got a lot of people asking me, like, where are you from? And when you tell them where you're from, where is that side? Where is that place really? I remember one Nigerian that I told that I come from, where I know he said, where are you at right now? I said, I'm in Uganda. He said, in which part of Nigeria is that place? You see, I was typing in English and actually, but he asked that which part in Nigeria is Uganda. So you can understand that we have got little people who know, all right? There are little people who know about their outside their own countries. There are little people who don't know that we have got even other countries that live in Africa. Some others don't know they live in Africa. All they know is their region. Okay, that is it. A lot of people don't really know. Okay, and like we were saying that Africans are very versatile. Africans are people who have a very rich culture. You cannot define an African using one concept. Okay? You cannot define an African using one concept. You cannot define an African by what you see. You cannot define an African by probably what runs all over social media. And at times it is so unfortunate that a lot of people even have never been here, but they think they know a lot about Africa. Africa is one of the continents I can say that I will never be ashamed to say that is among the most beautiful. Just now we have been receiving a very heavy rainfall. I was talking to Innocent and I was like, "Are you on a board?" And he was like, "No, I'm still somewhere stuck and it's raining." And right now you cannot tell that it was raining. The weather is back to normal and everything is fine. Apart from having issues of political problems, we don't have flies running all over our mouth like people always think, always picture. We have got clean and some good looking, handsome, strong young children compared to the images that the mainstream shows. I don't know, whatever. And it is very hard for an African not to shower because me, I've been with people I know don't shower. They just rub like they're dead bodies. Someone will be rubbing with a small towel.
Right.
They wipe. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes. So you got to expand on that. Don't know they are in Africa. No, serious. I'm serious. There are people who don't know they are in Africa. Now, because Innocent was asking me, like, the question is to ask me, really. There are people who don't know they come from a place known as Africa. They don't know they are united with other people outside their border. Someone thinks I'm a Nigerian, period. You can never find someone like me elsewhere. And this is the stupid pride that some of us have. I've seen a lot of people, we are the smartest people in the world. We invade. At times, I'm sorry. I'm extremely sorry. Watch all those snacks or you will have a bloated belly. And yeah, I have very. Why had a snack. Today we are not snacking. Today we are not snacking. Huh? Mhm. Today we are not snacking. Awulira kana kantu. So we have, of course, I'm sorry to say this. At times, let me tell you something. A lot of West Africans really behave like most of the people in the US, most of the black, and this is just not something. Apart from probably maybe Jamaican and stuff. Jamaicans have a different way they behave usually, but most of the people from they have got that wild, weird pride that at times just because we you see at times we have arguments on social media, and I'm always sitting at the corner and looking through the windows of social media, and I'm wondering, like, how do people really interpret or think this way? So you will find a Nigerian is so extremely, who the hell is South Africa? Who the hell is Ghana? Who the hell is whatever? They have got their own beef going on. We are the smartest people in the world, and all that and all that. And the same person you're asking them, then when you tend to ask them questions about themselves, they don't even know. All right. And then you ask yourself, now, what is your problem? The only history you know is your history. The person you're arguing with, you even don't know the history that behave that, of course.
Say they can't find a commonality between people of the continent that keeps us separated.
It is true. We are separated a lot. It's cool when you guys snag.
And chat with the
And Williams is always troubled with that snacking. So we decided to give it a break. But I think that but today we so today because of the rain we've made some food faster. So me I didn't go to school. So that's why at times we come when we are just from school and we are hungry. Like I was saying, it is true with what Jib Jabba is saying, of course. They can't find a commonality. All the time, we are looking at the differences that we have. And the funniest thing is these differences are always minor. And there are differences that even are not important. But we always look at these things. Each time you find someone, sorry. I try so very much to make when I'm on social media. By the way, for those who are my friends on my page, you realize that I don't have like a lot of Ugandans on my page. I have got a lot of South Africans on my page. I have got a lot of Nigerians, Ghanaians, Senegalese, people from Ethiopia, and other places. And this is because I love to understand these people better. And we have been interacting for a very long time. And a lot of people didn't know that I didn't belong where they come from. Many South Africans, I think I am a South African, at time maybe talking, they come and they start speaking in their Zulu in my inbox. And I've never told them that I'm not a Zulu. Some others will come Nigerians, and Nigerians know I'm an Igbo person. And sometimes someone comes, except that I know a little bit of Igbo. Yeah, I cannot get lost when I travel to Igbo land, and a little bit of Zulu. And so when we are chatting with these people, I make sure I mix a little bit of English. I've never told these people that I don't come from there. And there is that, so I realized that and at times when they see my comments, you see them trying to fight for me. Until I say something and someone is coming at me, you will see all of them trying to fight back. They don't fight because probably they think she's someone who comes from where we come from. So we cannot let someone probably, bull or stuff like that. But in Africa, we have had that problem that we really don't find something common that should unite us. But when you check, we have a lot in common. Our culture, you know, our spiritualities, our appearance, apparently most of the things we have, like the same. At times, last time I shared a video, I was watching a video with the Innocent, and he said, those people are speaking your language. It was a violent video, and he always says that people from my side are never violent. He doesn't even believe they can fight. They can fight, so. But um, he was like, "These people are from they are speaking your language." I said, "Yeah, I heard." But the truth is, these people were from Zimbabwe. They were from Malawi. Mm. Namibia now, but yeah, they were Luana. Like a video cover Luana.
Gambia.
It was Zimbabwe. It was Zimbabwe. Now, when the Zimbabweans speak, I pick apparently 95% of everything they are saying. You see? Now, how far is that place? When people of Malawi speak, I pick apparently a lot of the things they are speaking. And times I go through their posts and I know, because when you're reading stuff, you will, once you understand most of the things, you already know what this is about. So most of those people, but how far am I? I've even never been to Zambia before. I've never been to Zimbabwe before. And when you look at most of their cultures, when you see most of their food, we eat the same food, except that we call it different. Apart from I saw kalo, they were calling it that, the way we call it. And then I was also seeing God's meat, but they are calling it mbuzi. It is the same thing, like we do it. So you see, there is a lot that we need to focus. If I'm someone who can communicate and you hear or you understand, what tells you that I'm not your brother? If at all you eat the same food I eat, and probably we are naming it similarly, what else do you want me to prove that I'm related to you? The boundaries are being taken as the most important thing in Africa than the true things that Africans should rather focus on. Now, like I said, if we are to define Africa, we cannot define Africa in one aspect. Because Africans are people who come in all shades. So I'm not going to say African people, these people who have a dark skin. Okay? I'm not going to say African people are people who are black. We have got albinos who are typical Africans. And the truth is they're not black. Okay? They're even more lighter than the yellow people. So I'm not going to, according to me, people may have their own concept. And I'm not going to say Africans are people who live in Africa, because we have got the Boers, we have got those whites in South Africa. We have got people who are living here, but when they are not African, outside Africa, but when they are Africans. So, like, so to say, we can't define that Africans are the only people here, right? So Africa is a diverse, and as its definition is, you cannot say Africans are people who have got, probably you are describing them by their appearances. We have got people looking different in Africa. We have got people having different hair texture. We have got people who have brown hair. We have got people who have blonde hair, by the way. We've got people who have, kinky. We have got people who have curly. We have got people, they are all in Africa. All right. We have people who have blue eyes. You can say at times you see when people are color your eyes and blah blah, and they'll tell you people with blue eyes are not Bazungus. We have got Africans who have blue eyes. Okay. So we cannot describe this by the appearance of other people.
Language is spoken it is Arabic. So when we see when
Let me get some water.
we look at of course Africa, whatever you say, whatever you say, wasala. So when we look at Africa, Africa is a unique melting pot. It is not like a blanket, one piece of unbroken cloth. We see that Africa, uh, uh, like I said, Africa is a unique melting pot. It is not like a blanket, one piece of the unbroken cloth. What do I mean? The same color, the same texture, the same size. In contrast, the continent is more like a quilt with many patches, many pieces, many colors, and many sizes. Nonetheless, all components are held together by a common thread, which is called identity.
Mm.
Together.
Similar.
So, as the Africans, our identity is our history. Which together. So, if at all you deny the real history from the people, you're denying them identity. If at all people we can't understand our own history, our real history, we can't identify our identity. Yeah, because our history is our identity. Where we see that where we are originally from, it is our geography and values that hold our groups of people together. So we see that when we see that when we look at of course Africans are also indigenous people of Africa. Together, and their descendants, I mean Africans that are that are outside Africa. They are indigenous people of Africa. Together, and their descendants living in other places around the globe, such as Americas, which consists of the United States, Canada, Caribbean, Central America, Southern America, and of course other parts of the world like Europe and Asia. So it's better to see Africa as one entity rather than separate entities. Together, because the Afri good discussion, I'll stop back. That is from Jibby Jabba.
Oh, where is he going at?
Thank you, Jibby Jabba, for being here. So when we talk about the indigenous people of Africa, these are groups of people, are groups of people native to a specific region, people who lived there before colonialists and settlers that arrived here in Africa. So defined the new borders and began to occupy the land. So the definition applies to all indigenous groups within Africa, whether inside or outside Africa, although the vast majority of native Africans can be considered to be indigenous in the same sense, that they originated from the continent and nowhere else. So identity as an indigenous people, we see that in the sense of in the sense that they originated from the continent and no elsewhere, we see that in this modern application, more that is in this modern, of course, era that is restrictive and of course demarcated by the Bazungus. Not every African ethnic group claims identification under these terms. Like groups and communities who do claim this recognition are those who by a variety of historical and environmental circumstances kitegeera that have been placed outside the dominant states or the dominant state system. So their traditions and practices and the land claims have often come into conflict with objectives and policies that promulgated by the government, companies, and surrounding dominant societies. Okitegeera? It is very hard for tribes today to fight for their own identity. They will rather cause a conflict that is it is a tribal conflict. Like for us, our land ends here, stuff.
Don't cross.
Together. But
Why are they crossing?
So marginalization, along with the desire to recognize and protect their collective and human rights and to maintain the continuity of the individual cultures, has led many to seek identification as indigenous peoples of Africa. So in the contemporary global sense of the term, for example, in the Western Africa, the Dogon people of the Mali and the Burkina Faso, the Dola people of Guinea-Bissau, and of course the Gambia and the Senegal, the Sal people of the Senegal, the Gambia, for centuries, and of course, we see that and the differentiation and prejudice of the modern times, we see that these people who are indigenous to their present habitat are classified as indigenous people. But but we see that the history of indigenous African people spans thousands of years and includes a complex variety of cultures, languages, and political systems. Indigenous African cultures have existed since ancient times, with some of the earliest evidence of the human life on the continent coming from the stone tools and rock art dating back in hundreds of thousands of years ago. So the earliest written record of the African history came from the ancient Egyptian and the Nubian texts, which date back to around 3,000 years ago. So these texts provide insight into the society of the time, including religious beliefs, political system, and trade networks. In the centuries that followed, we see that various African civilizations rose beliefs and, of course, political systems to prominence, such as and we see the kingdom of the Kush in the northern Sudan. It was a big kingdom, by the way, and of course, the powerful empires of Ghana, Mali, and the Songhai, the Western Africa. Together.
Songhai Empire.
And we see that in the late 15th century, European colonization began, leading to enslavement of millions of Africans and displacement of many indigenous cultures. Since the end of World War II, indigenous African cultures have been in the state of constant flux, struggling to maintain their identity in the face of the westernization and globalization. We see that in the recent years, there has been a resurgence of the interest on traditional cultures, and many African countries have taken steps to preserve and promote indigenous heritage in their countries. Together. So when we look at the post-colonial era, the concept of specific indigenous peoples within the African continent has gained wide acceptance, although not without controversy. Together, the highly diverse and numerous ethnic groups which comprise of most modern independent African states contain within them various peoples whose situation cultures like pastoralists and of course hunter-gatherers lifestyles are generally marginalized and set apart from dominant political and economic structures of the different nations in Africa. So since the late 20th century, these people have increasingly sought recognition of their rights as distinct indigenous peoples in both the national and international contexts. For example, the San people in Namibia. By the way, for me, I thought the San people were in this South Africa. This real South Africa, not Namibia. And Namibia.
The real South.
Mm. So,
Somebody lwakireja wa South Africa kitebeeta malinnya
like that part,
bagenda
baitu bava South Africa,
aba South Africa
bakitebe tumalinnya ddala.
nno olabe gye balase
Gye balaze,
kinyanga bw'ogamba East Africa East
anti kati bwe batyo baagala okiyita, eza bali baagala kwawula because
Abazungu kyemmanyi kiriba okuba nga bonna baali wamu bano bagenda beekutulako kitegeere nga beetunda ebirala
some desolate jungle wasteland, but actually had culture and civilizations, as well as some of the most interesting human groups the world has to offer. But wait, wasn't Africa known to the Greeks, Romans, Arabians, and even Chinese? Oh, Africa, brave Africa. Once coined the Dark Continent due to its mysterious and unknown nature to the bulk of the world as one of the last fully explored and mapped out continents, and it actually wasn't until relatively recently, the past 150 years, that the rest of the world really understood that Africa was not some desolate jungle wasteland, but actually had culture and civilizations, as well as some of the most interesting human groups the world has to offer. But wait, wasn't Africa known to the Greeks, Romans, Arabians, and even Chinese? Well, it'd be more accurate to call this Africa, the northern and easternmost portions known to the ancient world, as the remainder of the massive continent really was cut off from the rest of the world for tens of thousands of years, effectively creating two main divisions, that being North Africa and the Horn, as well as Sub-Saharan Africa. North Africa, the area typically known to the ancient world as Africa, a word derived from Old Semitic or Berber origin, was quite integrated with the surrounding Mediterranean, with there being many transcontinental empires spanning through Europe and Africa, such as the Vandals or Phoenicians, or Africa and Asia, such as the various Egyptian dynasties, or all three, such as the case with the Roman, Macedonian, and later Ottoman empires. Due to this, there was significant settlement from the Middle East and Europe and North Africa. And as I discussed in my video over Egyptians, Muslim Egyptians have the highest degree of genetic similarity to the Middle East. Algerians generally have the highest degree of genetic similarity to Europeans, while Moroccans, being the most heavily removed, have the purest example of the original North African gene pool and phenotype. Ever since the desertification of the Sahel and much of North Africa several thousand years ago, the civilizations of Eurasia and North Africa had been effectively cut off from sub-Saharan Africa. But this, of course, does not mean that there has not been any contact, as of course there has been significant migrations between Arabia and the Horn of Africa, which is sometimes considered to be a part of sub-Saharan Africa, as well as less major migrations between West and Central Africa, north to and from the Maghreb and Egypt, which is why the natives of North Africa and the Horn are a combination of sub-Saharan African and Western Eurasian ancestry. However, among modern groups, this is, of course, highly variable, with groups in the Horn having different levels of admixture from ancient and more recent Eurasian migrants, but are predominantly sub-Saharan, while North Africans are mostly Eurasian with varying degrees of sub-Saharan African DNA, as I discussed in my video over the Afro-Asiatic world. The sub-Saharan component is actually divergent from the same component found in the Nilo-Saharan populations, which can be found in its purest form, of course, in the Nilotic peoples of East Africa, from South Sudan and Ethiopia to Kenya and Tanzania in the south, And chances are you've already seen my video over the Nilotes, by far the most popular video I've ever made, much to my surprise. They are distinct from more recent Bantu rivals, and this can be seen even in the present day, with there being relatively little admixture between these groups, although southern Nilotes certainly have more Bantu ancestry than those in the north in modern South Sudan, who are an example of the purest phenotype and hence have the most pronounced features. The Maasai, often touted as the most iconic African tribe for their somewhat quirky customs, are actually a combination of Horn African, Bantu, and principally Nilotic extraction. So, in a way, they are representative of sub-Saharans as a whole, but even they are not the indigenous peoples of the land they inhabit. Just because Eurasians diverged from sub-Saharan Africans roughly 60 to 110,000 years ago doesn't mean that those who remained in Africa stopped evolving, as these Africans have split into roughly 4 main basal divisions, give or take, with the previously mentioned Nilo-Saharan base being endemic to Northeast Africa, while the more well-known Niger-Congo base, and more specifically Bantu descendants, are native to West Africa and are what are generally known as the typical Black African, but they are indeed new arrivals to the lands they inhabit. Before the Bantu expansion were the rather primitive pygmy groups of the Congo and parts of East Africa, who spoke an as of now unknown language before adopting a Niger-Congo language after their conquest from the incoming Bantus, and have, for the most part, retained their traditional lifestyles as one of only a handful of hunter-gatherers or foragers in Africa. There was minor intermixing with the Bantu populations, who are undoubtedly highly genetically disparate from the Pygmies, and today there are small numbers of Pygmies throughout the Congo and other parts of East Central Africa. The other hunter-gatherer population of Africa was located predominantly in Eastern and Southern Africa, and are a group of many diverse peoples known as the Khoi, Kapoid, Bushman, or San, oftentimes coined together as the Khoisan, one of the oldest divergent extended regionalized ancestral continuums of humanity, who split roughly 150,000 years ago, showing the great genetic diversity among so-called sub-Saharan Africans. There are some claims that a large migration from the Horn intermixed with the Khoisan in southern Africa some thousands of years ago, but these are, as of now, rather shaky, and there is less known about this group than most others in Africa, with the Hadza and Sandawe of Tanzania recognized to be the indigenous inhabitants of the region, oftentimes being grouped with Khoisan due to their genetic isolation from the surrounding peoples and the presence of click consonants in their language, assigned typified almost exclusively in Khoi vocabulary. Again, there are trace amounts of Khoisan admixture in many Bantu groups today, perhaps most obviously in the Xhosa ethnicity of South Africa, manifesting in their appearance, culture, and obviously vocabulary, and the Cape Coloreds of the region also have large amounts of Khoisan admixture, roughly 25 to 40%, and hence are thought of by many as the strongest legacy of this group, although many full-blooded individuals still remain in South Africa, Botswana, and Namibia. So basically, think of the Pygmy and the Khoi as the Native Americans of Africa, and there are other groups such as the Dogon in Mali and West Africa that are also thought to have a pre-Niger-Congo origin, but this is disputed. The island of Madagascar is a very unique region of Africa, being a combination of both Austronesian settlers from Borneo and Southeast Asia, Bantu migrants from Southeast Africa, and minor Western Eurasian input from the Middle East, South Asia, and later Europe. But African ancestry is strongest on the western side of the island facing Africa, and appearance and culture is obviously highly irregular, making it, in my opinion, one of the most interesting nations on earth. Sudan is also a unique case of recent major racial intermixing between the indigenous Kushites, Nubians, had a large impact on the genetics of the Sudanese population, creating a hybridized nation who identify as Arabs but are actually incredibly ethnically mixed, as most Arabized groups are, only with a sub-Saharan rather than Western Eurasian base. There was a bit of an identity crisis in Sudan in the 20th century between their indigenous Nubian heritage and the more recent Arab culture brought to the country, but eventually the Arab identity won out, despite some parts of Sudan being far more African than Arab, genetically speaking, as we'll soon discuss. Now, due to the very old history of European settlement in southern Africa, many South African, Namibian, Zimbabwean, or Botswana and Bantus or Khois may have some significant or minor degree of European or more rarely East or South Asian ancestry, And by looking at my highly anticipated, by some, map of sub-Saharan African admixture in the continent and surrounding area, it's easy to see just how complicated the situation truly is, as is true for the distribution of Western Eurasian and Eastern Eurasian admixture as well. But now let's move on to sub-Saharan ancestry outside of the continent of Africa. And elsewhere in the Old World, African ancestry is quite strong, especially in parts of Arabia and the Middle East.
Anyway, from that video that we have recently shared, we have actually there have been a lot of debates, mostly people. It is very funny for someone to say that we have got, let me say, like the San people, the Khoistans, and other people from Namibia, more especially those who are a little bit light skinned with very tiny eyes. We have got videos that circulate claiming these people have Asian blood. It's funny. It's funny how someone will say they have Asian blood than Asians are having the blood of those people. Okay? And but we know that in Asia we have seen first black people living in Asia. We know that the first samurai was even black. We know that we had the Japanese who are black, and we know how it ended, how most of the black Japanese were killed by these other light-skinned people who came to settle in Japan. So the entire, when everyone has, whenever people get a small concept of a certain topic, of course they want to discuss it to their own understanding and probably maybe turn everything around. We have got the Nubian people, of course. But understand. Hey, I know. China bafananira ddala abasaani. But bufe basooka be babeerayo, their descendants, their ancestors. So you cannot change an ancestor again. You cannot say that my father looks like me. It is me who looks like my father. You cannot say my father looks like me. It is me who looks like my grand. So you understand? So you cannot change the entire story. Now we've got the Nubian people. Of course, we've got the Nubian people. Yeah. But unfortunately, nowadays, when you have to look at the Nubian, they will tell you the Nubians are actually Muslims. Okay? But Nubians only used to cover their head because of the climatical condition of where they were at. And before this, covering your head as a woman was part of African tradition. You can realize this, leave alone this modernity. Okay, leave alone the modernity. Let me take you back to Nigeria, where we are going to look at Igbo people. There are some Igbo women who will cover themselves with the traditional clothes, like if they are going to the farm, in whichever way. Others will wrap, they usually call it a wrapper, over their head. This was an African culture. It has got an African woman covering herself has got nothing to do with religion, like Islam or what, like always people take it. Now we had the Nubian people. The Nubian people were extremely dark skinned with a very huge afro hair and kinky afro hair, and they usually used to cover their heads like some of the great people we see, of course, in some other parts of West Africa. But nowadays, if at all you are to look at a Nubian, the first thing someone connects being a Nubian with is being a Muslim. Because it is in their culture to cover. They cover their head. Even Nubian men wear a turban. They cover their head. Just like you see, the way they wear that turban is like the way the Rastafari wear their turbans. This is how the Nubian people wrap. This is a story of the Nubian people wearing that attire that looked extremely. Tebakoze byabwe ebyatugabane ngambe tebakoze byabwe byakwegatta
bino ebyokwagatta wanaliye
kati twana bayeka ne wali nga bali live
wanaliyeka
n'omuliro bagutandise wala mweganise mpeni twala ne wali tulabe ngaateraga gundi bakyawoki nga bagambye 6 watching forwarding nga tulabe ng'ayambadde
ageerabeera bagali
oba agigasse
eno kino naawe eriko gundi eno kino eriko gundi ogiraba one day ago eno kino eriko gundi eno kino eriko gundi
kozi feyaffe
eriko abalabi effe
kozi egyo twasooka obeera nayo n'agitutya
yaffe eya let me show you
So-
yaffe
tetuli bubi
yeah
kati ate wakikitera nekijja eno kiba kitakusemu tukyepane. Like I was saying, the Negro, the the Nubian people, they used to cover themselves. It's like you see Muslims do. But unfortunately, nowadays the Nubian are very much categorized with Islam. I guess because of their attire and of course the code of dressing. And nowadays, again, we see a lot of people who are even not Nubians claiming that they are, which is a little bit weird. When we had conflicts in of course, in the parts of Egypt and Sudan, we saw the Nubian people move. Oh my great Nubian, they moved to, of course, some parts of Uganda. We have a place here called the Bomb. Waliyo Banubi. We have got a lot of Nubians. And when it comes to a place, that place called the Kiras, it is filled with Nubians over there. So our place has a lot of Nubians. And then as you're heading still to our place from the capital of Kampala, few kilometers to my home district, you'll find another place that is filled with Nubians. That's why last time I was telling you it is easier to get, cargo cars from that side because most of them are connected to the other. So we have got a lot of Nubians where I come from. But most of these people, some of them are even not Muslims. Except that a lot of people be thinking Nubians are Muslims and stuff like that. This is the first thing that runs in the mind of the world. The mind of the Roger going for.
What's the matter? So, as I said, what are you saying about? But but Africa, like today, Africa has almost 54 countries, and within these 54 countries, we have different tribes within these countries. Because there are a lot of countries. Talking of Africa, Uganda only has 56 tribes. Yeah, 50, and those are languages. The tribes are the languages. At a time, tribes are languages. Bantu tribe. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. I thought that is a ethnic group. Hey, it was ethnic groups. The Nilotics, the Bantu, Hamites, Hamites.
Shut up.
Those things in school. Those things in school. You're better. Groups in East Africa. very stupid things. How about the Kushite speaking people? Yeah, the Oromo people from Ethiopia, the Somali,
Oromo, even I hear in King.
the Afar.
Yeah. What's change? We have got people Oromo, but they're in Kenya.
Mm.
But I'm not sure this is.
That's to go on the theory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, why is it that? Yeah. Listen, listen. Very well. Ethnic groups in East Africa. And
Who's that tribe?
Listen. An ethnic group is a large group of people who share a common origin and almost speak the same language.
Mm-hmm.
A tribe is a group of people with the same beliefs, cultures, origins, and speak the same language. Are we together?
You are
Major
studying that history,
ethnic.
that is
Listen,
not right.
that's the history. Major,
history.
listen. Major ethnic groups in East Africa, they are Bantu, Nilotics, Kushites, or Hamites.
There is nothing like Kushites. There is nothing like Hamites and chocolate. There are people who Bible yangu ikiwenda. Bible ikiwenda ku tribes of Lena, tribes of Lapa, tribes lwaki butubogera ku ethnic. Udashobora kugamba tribe yoli. I think at the end of the day we'll take it until abantu banjawulo, but they are categorized in tribes. Agamba tribe ya Kushi, tribe ya Nani. Ethnic, all those concepts that are there, they are concepts that were created to divert people from their truth. You start breaking something. But what is that? What is?
They even said that the Bantu is the largest group of people in East Africa and occupy the largest part of the region. They speak related languages characterized with the word I. Too. When talking about the person, I say, yeah. So they are believed to have entered East Africa around 1000 AD and originated from Cameroon. The main occupation is farming. Examples of Bantu in East Africa: Bagisu, Banyoro. Bagisu, why did they categorize it into two? Bagisu, Banyoro, Bagisu, Banyankor, Batoro, Bachika. Listen, they say in Uganda they are Bagisu, Banyoro. It means there are people who are Bagisu and they are Banyoro.
We have got the Gishu people who speak, I told you last time, who speak exactly like my language.
Now they are Bagisu, Banyankore.
They
are Batoro,
and these are the Bagisus. There are two types of Bagisus. Abamu bogerango Uganda. When they are speaking Rugisu.
Bagisu, Banyankore.
The original Bamasaba.
They are even you say that they are Batoro, Bachiga.
There is no Bachiga.
They say the Basoga Bamba.
Can you imagine Omwamba?
Listen. They say the Basamia. They say the Basamia Banyore. Banyore, not Banyore.
I know.
Then the Baluri Bagwere.
That is wild.
They say, when we go to Kenya, in Kenya they say there is Ababusi, Kikuyu, Akamba, Embu, Ameru, Okomo, Mbere, Machenda, Luya, then Mijenda.
Now the Luyas are like the Gishu. When a Luya person speaks, I'm not a Gishu, but I understand.
In Tanzania, the Nyamwezi Yao, Chagahehe, Kobo Makonde, Sukuma Ngoni, Zaramo Mbogoro, and Wakuru Bahaya. Then,
even Wakuru Bahaya.
When then they
Bahaya is the God.
Then they said they are the what do they call the Western Bantu or the Intercastrian Bantu that they entered East Africa through the northwestern Tanzania and settled in north and central Tanzania. They included the Baziwa, the Sukuma, Nyamwezi, and the Bahaya. Later,
Correct, remember the one.
Mhm.
But they all speak the
Then
same
the Eastern
thing.
Bantu, this moved to Central East Africa through the southern eastern direction of Tanzania around the highland areas and around the coast of East Africa. These are the Kenda, Washamba, Taveta, Chaga, Meru, Kikuyu, among others. Then the southern Bantu, they entered East Africa through the southern Tanzania. That is their area. Sometimes they call the Central Bantu. They include Ngoni, Pipa, Yao, Makwa, Mkonde, Hehe.
I now remember when you are studying history about the Ngoni people. Are they bad? Are they not Ngoni?
Then the
Hey!
Nairotis.
So you
Oh,
can
the
think
Kushite.
that is not
Then
true.
the Nairotis. This is the second largest ethnic tribe in East Africa. Ethnic tribe. They categorized in three major groups: the River Lake, the Plain Nilotics, Highlands, stuff like. You had this history.
Which is not true because if we look at the Nile, if we look
This
at
is
the
the
Nile
thing. This
in
is
East
the thing.
Africa, it is occupied by the Bantu speaking people.
Now this is
If
the
you
thing
look
that I
at
was
the
looking at.
if
The
you look
River
at
Lake Nilotes, listen, they include the Acholi, Langi, Alu, Bagundi Bangambo Balu,
what?
Bali Abanyambi Abajjawa, those guys.
The Alur.
Yeah.
But they don't live at the Nile.
Jabadola, the Jaruo.
Jaru.
I thought Jaruo was in Tanzania. In Kenya.
They are also here.
So these people are related to the Madi, Dinka, Shiruku, Niru, and Nuer of southern Sudan.
And some of, and most of their culture is like the Igbo culture.
The
Nigeria.
original cradleland of the Nilotes is Bahal Gazelle.
And
Then the Highland Nilotes, these were originally pastoralists and include the Nandi, the Kipigis, the Tugeni, and of course the Dangon. Together, the Sabini are found in Kenya and Uganda. The Dangon in Tanzania. These people mainly settled along the highland area are believed to have migrated from the south. Then the Plain Nilotes. These are, of course, they say they originated from Ethiopia. They include the Masai, the Suburu, Jili, and of course the Karamajong, the Tesos, and the Turkana. But their main economic activities is nomadic. Reasons for migration. And then the Kushites or the Hamites. It is believed that they migrated from Asia and settled in the Horn of Africa, where where we find countries like Somalia, Djibouti, Eritrea, later entered East Africa.
You understand now it is a scam.
Their main occupation was cattle keeping. Today, the Kushites not lived in the same arid lands of central Tanzania.
Now
They include the Gala, the Somalia, the Borani.
People of these countries they are mentioning.
But
they don't even look like the
whoever made this history had the intentions. Why is it that he named those people? You know, most of them they're light skinned. They're light skinned now. They say that they migrated from Asia. No Somali looks like an Asian. They don't even. They don't. The son I can believe. To a smaller extent.
And some people, their son did not migrate from Asia. It is rather those people who they have their ancestors here in Africa. So that those ones are grandchildren bazukulu. So si bano kubeera bazzukulu b'abana.
Europeans of African descent.
Olaba tuli baddugavu naye bw'osanga omuntu omuddugavu kati manya nti ate abamusookawo bakisusse tugenda tukola ki? So there is nothing like but that history, that's why you were by the time we are reading it I was just saying stop. You have realized that most of the history that we study is not true. Now you are going to name.
And that is the history, by the way, we had in primary.
Yes, of course, and that's what you grew up knowing. That differentiates us a lot to know that you come from different areas. The history already has told us that you have people who are not like you. So for you, you come from somewhere else, and the other one comes from somewhere else, and so comes from somewhere else, and the story goes on and on. All right, but this starts from what they teach us through this whole thing. We know very well, you know, I used to explain these stories. Uh, I grew up, from our family. Let me say, my entire, family, my uncles, my great parents, and all that. Um, we usually had time where people used to tell stories and stuff that used to happen. And because we all had questions like, because, why do these people come from the other side? And when you still go back to Cameroon, where they say the Bantu originated from, the Cameroon Islands will also tell you those Bantu just came. You understand? So there is no place in Africa that wants to acknowledge. When you are checking history, there is no book that is acknowledging that those people have been indigenous. They were, so when you cross-check the history of Cameroon, where they will tell you these people originated from, they will also tell you these people came from the other side. So where exactly are these people coming from? The entire history was distorted, confused, and to the point that they are naming. You name Nilotics because they passed through the Nile. We don't even have them living along the Nile. Right? You name I know of the Alur. You cannot mention no Alur. That is the Nilotic, they originated from wherever, from Sudan and all that. So we have got, if you look at the entire structure, there is no one who is as short as an Alur in Sudan. So they mean to say the entire people originated from there. They all moved as the Alur tribe, and it came. So they will start telling you we have people who migrated and this, and there are most people who have got the word in two. All right, fine. How about we say the entire, all the people Bantu? Okay? And because when you decide that you're going to categorize depending on those things, you realize that everything is just created to bring segregation and distance. So when you look at the stories, let me assume like the Alur people. Those people have and the Madis. Let me first handle the Alurs. They have a lot in common with some tribes that are in Congo. Check it out. And even you will see someone tell you, I'm an Alur, but my ancestors, my great grandparents are in the other certain part of Congo. Okay? Someone's going to say, but again, when you try to check DNA, it will still tell you about Tundubundi. If we look at the Madi people, they have a lot of even the words, the way they speak. Except the problem is that we Africans don't want to study about us. The way these Madi people speak is almost the same way Igbo people in Nigeria speak. But we do not see any combination of the Madi and the Igbo people. Okay? When we are checking history is not going to tell you about how are they united. How are these Madis in Uganda connected to the Igbo people? Because they speak almost the same. When you listen to an Igbo person, you listen to a Madi person, you will see that they are speaking the same. And their tradition. There are issues of eating yam. They like fish like Nigeria, like Igbo people do. Even that white yam. Actually, my first time seeing that white yam was seeing it with the Madi people. They plant that, and it is among their traditional meals. The white yam, and the way they eat it. I asked why he said, oba kyetutumula oba kiraala
Mm.
kirawo nga muwogo
Mm.
si kyekitutumula kisusse ku kyetutumula kirala waliwo ekintu ekirala kiringanga kyetutumula ekyo endagu erabika yeeyo. Now that one is part of their traditional what? And what kwegamba n'ebiseerera ebyo and all that thing. Otegera? So kati when we are studying this what is it?
No, you can give it up. Give it. So, naye tekigenda kweyongera.
Mama.
Mm,
Ah.
Keith is right in the building. Hello, Keith.
How you guys doing today? That's good.
We are
Yeah,
fine.
you're doing fine.
All right. You guys be careful, my 70s. Guys, watch out for my 70 wicked ass. Trying to put his own his own Ugandan police in the police force over there in Kenya to help Ruto. So, Kenya, Kenya, you said they're gonna be coming for you next, my 70. They said,
Mm, mm.
they said they coming for my 70 corrupt ass, trying to bring your goddamn police force over in Kenya.
There is a photo. I had the photo of a Ugandan that army that protects the president. It is called the SFC. It actually was in Kenya to make protesters stop protesting, but they had Kenyan flags with that logo of the SFC, which is the Ugandan army that protects the president. So actually, it brought a lot of verbal words on Twitter. A lot of people talked about it. How is it that we see in Kenya, like we see SFC that protects the president in Uganda, it is in Kenya now, and by that guy might have of course deployed his army to Kenya.
But what his
And
army is supposed to be, it's probably part of his police force that's putting on Kenyan uniforms and acting as Kenyans because he's scared. See, if this goes, Museveni is a corrupt puppet. He's been in power. Nobody voted for this bastard over 40 years. So he trying to stop them coming. He trying to stop them coming for him because the youth of Kenya said, after we done with this, we're gonna go in Uganda and flip that over too. We are the majority, and he can do it. And he's right. There's no army alive that can stop the youth. You guys, once the youth get rid of their fear, there's no army that can stop you because you're the majority of the country. You're the overwhelming majority. Of course, some people are gonna die. So what? You'll get power. Power is not given; it's taken. It's time for this corrupt bastard to get out of power. So he knows what's going on. That's why he sent the little forces over. Hey, and the Kenyans know it. Kenyans already talking about it all on TikTok and Twitter. They know some of these motherfuckers are Ugandans. They know it. They said they're gonna come after you, Museveni, and your Captain Crunch son ain't gonna be able to stop them. Do 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 do. Oh, I lost him. Good on, Jibber. Oh, Lost it. When anybody showing up? Wait 10 minutes. I'll shut it down. So they're gonna show up. You guys made it back? Oh, you guys made it back, huh?
We are back.
Yeah, I was
It is
holding it down so you guys would go. Huh?
threatening to rain outside.
Oh, it's raining.
So I
Okay.
think our power is blinking all the time.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah, we have got thunderstorm. Yeah, yeah, you were telling us about Kenya.
What about Kenya?
You were telling us about Kenya and Museveni.
I was
I
just saying, but
actually
70 has put some of his troops, some of his police over in Kenya to help with the riot, with the protesters, and the Kenyans have found out about it, and they're not happy about it.
but Museveni has never been a friend to Ruto. When did they become a friend?
Whenever I've been reading actually a certain article that for the first time Odinga and Ruto meet, and of course they have met because of these amendments that they made over in what I was reading somewhere they made Odinga and the counterpart. So it is possible for those are politicians. It's possible for them to be.
Museveni ayinza otwala poliisi nga tebabyogeddeko mu palamenti. Alinda. Also, now it is also funny. Okay, I thought Ruto picked most of his police to take them to Haiti. Yeah, but
I
so why is we should bring back those ones in Haiti to come and fight?
very delicate this.
Whatever it is, they are coming to. So the next chickadee.
Well, they just killed some. I think they just killed some Kenyan police in Haiti. So the Hades, some kid, at least a 50-year-old kid, had shot at them, and the Kenyans went running away. Haiti said, "This ain't Africa. We're not scared of African people. So we're African, but we're not scared. Don't bring your ass here trying to help the colonizer. So it was a 15-year-old kid with a gun started shooting their ass. So they all ran away. They all ran away. I was like, damn.
It is just not, it is funny. It is funny for me how Ruto will he take his, of course, officers to Haiti, and then
Because
the
he's a puppet,
officers are
Maria.
coming.
Because he's a
But anyway,
puppet.
I think that it is still under speculation, because if at all this is done, then it's going to cause a lot of havoc, because we have not seen Ugandans or the parliament discussing about this or agreeing to this
Parliament.
yet.
Maria. You don't live in a democracy. You don't live in a democracy parliament. You live, whatever Miss 70 says goes. The parliament. Come on. Parliament. He'll, he'll just do that without asking the parliament, Maria. You really believe Miss 70 been won elections since 1985, Maria? You believe that?
Mm. That
You believe Miss 70 has been voted in every time since 1985? You believe that?
one?
You believe he's won elections since 1985, Maria? You believe that?
Well, I have my own statistics to that. And by the way, and this is the problem that most Africans are having. We are having the elections reached, yes, but again, we are having the people who are supposed to be fighting for change, not registering for elections. Have you noticed that? And the funniest thing of all, where the president, like let me say, where Ugandan Museveni gets his votes usually, is in the village. He hardly gets votes from the capital of Kampala. And then Kampala, again, is not the highly populated place in Uganda. And even when you look in Kampala, you realize that most of the youths even fail to register for elections. Now, this at times when I look at the things people who are demanding for change are doing, I question really. Okay, I still question. This man spreaded a lot of propaganda when he was coming into power, that it takes someone to have a smart mind to jump out of this. If you have ever noticed, whenever we are going to have elections or campaigns, we always have a matching of all Ugandan military weapons moving through different streets, and it is always showcased on one of the main television in Uganda. The main television that is usually watched by the people in the rural areas. So when someone who has ever experienced instabilities, because there is a time when Uganda had some instabilities, and we know why those instabilities existed. When you showcase that now Uganda has all these weapons they always see in the movies, and then we try to tell that person that we are going to change, all right, and allow someone and remove, and you have ever heard all the people saying, he brought us peace, okay? We don't want to go back in those old days where we used to run. But who was chasing them? Who was the real person who was, before, this man, before he came into power, there is that fear he created in the minds of the people.
He was killing people. He's part of the CIA. He's a hit.
To the point that everyone willingly agreed to bring him into power.
Exactly.
Because everyone willingly, some other people even to the point they sacrifice their little children to go in the bush and fight and bring regime into power because they were being terrorized, but the same people who were terrorizing them were the same people who were telling them that we are giving you peace. Now, if you find such kind, and remember, people in rural areas are people who respond to policies so very quickly, they can let go everything and follow what the government policy is all about. Register yourself. You will find people even complaining, crying on television. We have not been registered. No one is registering us. These are the people who love this man. And you can never tell them otherwise. Forget about these things you see when Bob Wine puts an entire bus and tax of people from the city to go in those areas. He moves with his supporters. And when they reach the village, they cause a lot of chaos. And the other man laid something. And the only way we can bring change is for us who keep on shouting to wake up and vote, which we don't do. Because most of the people in the capital are always busy. These are the people who hate him. The ones in the capital city. Now in Kampala, they are busy. You are a hustler in the morning. There is no way, when it is voting time, it is not a public holiday. Okay? The government does not declare voting hours public holidays. So that means each person is required to report at work. But you just have to make sure that you find that little time to go and vote.
Vote.
Now I'm trying to show you how. Probably at times I think, okay? At times I think because the biggest population of people who respond to government policies, who respond to all the things that are required, are people in the rural area. And they have got the biggest percentage and the biggest population than the ones which are in one region. We have had a scenario of
So are you trying to say the rural people have been ignorantly voting for him for the last 40 years? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and I can tell you because I've never been there, not in one, not in two, not in three. I know they vote for him with no question. And even now, even if you tell them to vote, they are still going to vote. Forget what people see on social media. More people vote for that man. And these are the people who are always involving themselves.
Well, if he's winning these elections, there's nothing to be damn upset about that.
They have not been told. They don't know. And most of these people, and he knows that when he goes to the rural areas, you will find at least every household has a project. He knows for them he doesn't break himself. It is not expensive to take care of them or of the rural people. All he does is come to your family, give you one cow. And then he say you take care of this cow, you are going to have many cows, and someone is excited about it. And some of the people just keep on remembering. He gave us a cow that is providing milk for my grandchildren. How are you going to convince that person that leader is bad? They don't know what taxes are all about. Okay? They don't know the life of taxes. They don't understand what are you talking about bad roads? Where do they go to? Do they drive? I'm talking about fuel. Do they even know how much? You don't tell them shit. These are the people who don't even know that there is bad governance. They're built one school, it is okay. So a lot of people, a lot of these people, and for us in that city, where apparently every youth wants to go to. And now you find most of these youths, when they are registering, they register from their rural areas. Because they always say, go back home and register. Now, who is going to pay? Who is going to pay for something like $5 to board in a bus to go and vote? When people are hustling, not tell me. You see it when you look at all this. So when this guy at times, I know, and if he's winning because a lot of people are ignorant. And he knows how to. He knows how to play this game. Because you cannot wake up and say, I'm going to pay probably, let me say, like 15 US dollars to travel up country to vote. And you invest in your money for a day. And you leave your work. And you're voting and you're not sure. So there are a lot of people who don't vote for reasons that he even himself knows. So
Yeah.
he also knows a lot of his strength is in the rural areas. When they come in the rural areas, the first thing they do, they door to door, they even bring a car that is going to transport them to where he is. They don't even allow these people to walk. They said to you, we are parking the car in the pitch where the children play soccer, all right, football. So you all join in. Everyone will be rushing. 20 cars will park everyone above, everyone 18 years plus. They sit in these cars and they are taken to the stadiums to listen. And after that, they are given bottles of sodas, water. They cook food and everyone is eating. And they're going. And then you're telling them, oh, there is Baby Wine who has come at the other pitch. Everyone is in their farm. Why should we go to see Baby Wine? He has not even facilitated our movement. How are we going to move to where he is? So people, I'm telling you, if that man is winning elections and he knows where he wins, he hardly campaigns in the campaign. You always see him, he only comes in the last moment. And usually he goes to Kololo.
Carol is even outside.
And Kololo is outside him. And when he goes to Kololo, he sends some few for his representatives. He's going to do it once because he knows where his power is. He does not stress himself with the people in the capital city. And that's why you see in the capital city, last time even Bob Wine won in the capital city. He never won anywhere else. I don't even want to listen. First of all, if someone is going to say, so this guy was smoking weed, how is he going to be our leader? Those are the rural people, all right? That's the first thing that is going to come. And then do you even listen to some of his words he used to sing in his music? How can you allow such kind of a person? So that is how, and I can tell you there are high chances that this man is not to reach the vote. There are high chances. And now when you look, and another problem that I usually see is the fear that people have. People are not certain that if this man steps down, they are not certain of their security. Because somebody's going to say, if this man leaves power, because there is always what people usually say that he says, I came with a gun. It is only someone with a gun that can remove me from power. So when someone says such a thing, a lot of people have a lot to lose. Now everyone is always, now if he's talking about the gun, that means he can never leave unless we are going to have a war or a conflict.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so most people will say no, more especially the women. Honestly, and by the way, he's supported mostly by women and elderly people and some few rural area young people. So someone is going to say, now if this man is saying he came with a gun and if someone is to put him down, he should be using a gun, that means he's declaring war. And now everyone is like, no, I don't want to experience war. I rather eat the little thing I have. And people end up saying, until there, maybe he's not going to live forever after all. Time will come and he will die. Okay? So they have given up. And these are the very people who are ready to, of course, make sure that they protect his existence in power. And then we've got the big business people who know that if the moment probably he steps down, there's a lot that is going to affect their businesses. And these are, at times, there are places where he does not reach. but he has got those rich business people representing him over there. And the
Yeah.
business people who are born in the village. If someone wakes up and built a school, he just comes and says, "Now you're going to be my campaign what person?" And then they start campaigning. Now, this is the rich person who has built a school. The entire village respects this person. How are they not going to believe when this person says vote for the president?
Wow. So I get what you're saying. You're virtually saying, Maria, that Uganda, like most Africans, been kept so ignorant, so not understanding how politics work, how things work, that they're just gonna vote for, like, you're right, because they say, yeah, he built a big school, he's our man, and right. So it's just about being exploited year in and year out. That's sad. Sad.
So I can tell you there are extremely high chances that he does not treat boards. He does not cheat. The
Wow.
way the way he
Then then
held
then can't nobody be mad then if he's winning. He's winning then. I shit. Nothing to be mad about then.
there is the way he held there is the way he captured the mind of the people, and people are very ignorant about a lot. And at times, this is why I say it is also important for him for people to remain ignorant, and is trying as much as possible to let people still remain in that position, because through that it is easy for him to still control the Ugandans without question. We have got um, we have got a lot now. Recently, people used to speak about Bobby Wine, but people joined Bobby Wine, more especially here in the capital, not because they wanted to join him. And if you see, most of them who joined him are not even supporting him. Most of them have even turned against him. It is not because of anything. They joined him because they knew they wanted to be politicians, and that was the easiest road, because most of their youth in Kampala supported Bobi Wine's political party. So most of them knew that was the only way they can be
Hmm.
voted in power.
Yeah.
And this is why we are even seeing his party moving, because they're not giving in all. All they wanted was to come into power, because they knew the biggest population of the youth in Kampala and the people in Kampala vote. Remember, Kampala is a one, of course, in the central part, and Bob Wayne speaks the same language with the people that originate around. So
Kampala.
there was high chances. So we saw a lot of people crossing to Bobi Wines, not because they support his beliefs or they support his agenda, but they wanted to use him as a ladder to enter the parliament, of which they did. And after
Yeah.
entering, they kept quiet. After, they still wear his red cape and all that, but they are quiet. No one is even if you see them trying to defend, they are not defending solemnly. All right, you can see and understand that someone was just using, and someone is still using this space, because they cannot be sure of what is going to happen the next election. But we are not Zimbabwean losing strength. All right, and
What's the
throughout.
what's the opposition party then, Maria? What's the opposition party in Uganda?
We have a lot of opposition parties, and now one of
Okay.
the we had one, of course, which was the second, the biggest opposition party, known as the FDC. Of course, it was led by, of course, Kiza Besigye. That man has been in opposition for quite some time. It was known as the FDC, and everyone was trying to crossroad now. Yeah, Bobby Wine doesn't know shit. I think we should go back and support. Opposition leaders are always opposition leaders, I guess. That is the guy. So by the way, that guy is very smart and very kind.
Okay.
And now this is one of the what was the top opposition party before Nup came, because for it was reaching the depth of Uganda. It was reaching in every corner of Uganda.
What happened to him?
Remember,
What happened to him? They kill him?
no, he's alive. You remember he was his colleague. He was his doctor during the war.
Yeah.
He was. They were so close to each other. Now the problem that brought issues with this political party is the wife to this the political party president, and of course they have a son who is gay.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and the moment he was that, all things went berserk. So that is Uganda. People realized, yeah, everyone started withdrawing. Like, how can you have a homosexual son? You should turn everyone to homosexual. What kind of bullshit is this? How can you have a president like this? So, so this one, that was done. And I think the wife was in UN. She was over UN spokesperson, something like that.
That's the son in
And
the middle, right? That's the homosexual son in the middle.
yeah,
Shit. He looked like a homosexual too. Shit.
so that is how this guy lost to the people, and every opponent was using that, and everyone started withdrawing. How can we entrust such a man with our country and all that? And, but people used to like him until that happened.
Yeah,
You know.
that changed that changed everything. Like, oh man, nah.
You
Okay.
understand?
I I can't be fucking with this homosexual. This dude's got a whole gay son, yeah.
Mm. So, and that was one of the strongest people that I knew would take over, because
You guys got everything?
I did get that panel was over here. I moved some stuff, but I put it together
Okay.
by number. The only thing here, they didn't send these 10, but they sent 10 of another race panel.
Okay.
So there wasn't race panel. If you sign this, let me get you the other one.
All right.
Did you get all of them signed? Or just the top one?
You top one.
That'll be the one.
All right.
what are you buying? Hey, you want to eat popcorn?
Sorry about that. I was taking care of a little business there. I, I was trying to get a death squad together.
Oh,
they go they go get my 70 since he can't get voted out because he got cats with homosexuals running. That ain't good.
I'm telling you, so that is how that guy was.
I can't get him out the seat. He said, yeah, we can't vote for him. His whole son is a homosexual. Damn.
but the issue of election when uh, like the issue besides the winning you talked about, that of course that abnormal winning,
You have to be like that.
that abnormal winning. Um, Whenever it is election time, uh, the government
Mm.
normally deploys the army around voting centers. A lot of people fear to go to vote,
Mm.
depending on the precedents that happen prior voting, which they get, like arresting opposition leaders, stuff. Though, when we look at Kampala only, Kampala has fewer people compared to the rest of the country.
Mm.
Kampala, as a capital city in Uganda, it has over 1.6 million people.
Mm.
1.6
And
million people.
if you vote,
And Uganda has now there is an estimated number of 60 million people in Uganda. In Uganda, in Kampala there are 16 million people, and the entire the people that the last voting, the people that registered for voting, there were over 18 million. Out of the 45 million people that were voting, which
so
take it,
the million is on this.
we know now. Prior, there were about 13, 14. But in the last election, there were over 18 million people that voted. Which take it. But you see, the biggest number of people don't even vote. So even those few that voted, they are not in Kampala. So if at all the 1.6 million people voted for Bobi Wine, where did the rest of the million, where did the rest of the 15, 16 million go? The other guy, despite of these people that came in
The
between
little ones that even didn't have 2%.
to interact.
Yeah, and of course create a legacy. But yeah, at times or other, me like someone who has been, into these things.
As we're seeing now.
There is, I wanted to go. I wanted to join to be an MP last time, but now I will. Si mu bubi to church and I will involve myself activity. But like I was saying, I've never seen a lorry that is filled with hose being taken to villages. The people in rural areas want very tiny things. For them, they are not like us who are questioning, this bread. They don't even eat that bread. They don't even the price of bread. So you cannot be complaining about taxes. They even don't know. Because you cannot talk about fuel. They don't know. Okay, then they would go to obtain never good paraffin. Paraffin, you tell you, so there are things that, so for pleasing such kind of people, it is not like pleasing someone in the capital where I'm boarding a border or Uber and they have increased the price because they are giving me an excuse of fuel and I get angry because now the charges of the distance that I make has doubled. All right, I'm not going to be mad. I'm going to be mad, of course, when I go to buy sugar. Even people in the village hardly take this sugar people in the city take. They have their own things they take instead of sugar. Sugar that sweeten their tea and whatever. Now, if someone like that who does not feel the pain of increased taxes, who does not feel the pain of, we don't have electricity. Most of them, even this guy introduced solar. The solar, you see how he's trying to overcome. Okay? They don't know the payment, the electricity, because they have their lighting by solar. So when it doesn't like, they know it did not, the sunshine did not come. It rained for 3 days. So are you going to blame the president for the rain? Of course not. So he put them in a position where they are satisfied with what they want. and he gives them little. So he gives them little. I told you during campaigns I've seen lorries and trucks filled with hoes and seeds.
Mm.
Okay? And they give him a hoe. He knows he's going to use that hoe for apparently like 12 seasons. Not even 12, like 20 seasons, because hoes don't get spoiled fast. So someone's gonna use that for something like 20 seasons. Now it's gonna look at her. Now my farming has been what? Someone has helped me big time. I want to give a hoe to someone in the city. People in the city are expensive to please. Okay? Even when you give them 5,000, it is nothing to them. Their dreams are big. You see? So how can you tell me that you're going to tell that person after being given a hoe 5 years ago, they're bringing another hoe this year? Okay? And you tell that person not to vote. They are going to vote. It is impossible. So there are things that these people, me, I believe they vote because they are very ignorant. What is paining you as someone who is living in the urban area does not hurt them.
And they are the real voters.
And they are the real voters. Because for them, they have time for it. They can sacrifice everything to follow these government things. Now, when you look at, I'm gonna, when you look at, like, let me say, in some areas, all right, someone is going to ask you in the capital or here in Kampala, that have you ever seen a mioga? Have you ever heard of a mioga here? I don't know whether it is here or not. But when you go to the villages, they will every they have to tell you there is a mioga. Okay? And how is that done? The entire village, you will decide what do you want to rear. You want to rear this?
No. When you go to our village, however, the government the government introduced a lot of policies. However, there is some corruption within the
Corruption is
people,
always in the
within
part.
people, those people that deliver. But when you go to our village, people are given these exotic cows, out of which some of the people can't maintain.
Expensive
Those
to
things,
maintain.
yeah, they eat a lot.
They
Tegelezima
eat
zijana
carrots,
chachu.
banana,
They eat maize brush.
Mm.
They eat of course like a lot of maintenance for those cows. So most of the people, those cows end up dying in the hands of those people. So for me, I think at the time with the policies they are fake. Those people that of course that dictate what the government should give the people is not good. However, the people in the village,
So
they actually they don't forget that the
they
president
were
gives
given.
stuff together because like Baba Wende, they even give out they
Nazo
give the,
zirimo corruption. Bali bagula wrong cows.
now why
By now
why
they
do you
have
give
Bugula.
why do you give villagers
And
exotic cows for what reason?
expensive.
They're expensive to
Corruption.
maintain, kukitegera
Oli
staff,
agula wakyaliwe.
kukitegera.
Bw'amanyi oba naye okuzeerundira.
Secondly, there are also programs we have seen policies where the government is giving free coffee seedlings to the people. I've seen that in my village. However, corruption is always there. Kukitegera, they give them out seeds. Sikati planted, sikati it is towards the planting of stuff. Okay? They give out seeds. To people when it is that time for planting in the villages.
Now how will that person forget?
Forget what the government has done. That's why Museveni once said that what are you doing in towns? Go back to the villages. I was telling you the same stuff. What are you doing here? What do you do in the towns? People in the villages are making money. Hey, people in the villages are making money. What are you doing in towns? At the buli omwaka ogubanga gugwako on UBC, that is the Uganda, of course, broadcasting service. That is the organize
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
government. They do, of course, have that. Some people think that those things are not real.
They are real. I've seen them
But
in my village too.
but there is a way people have expanded their of course
Unit Center, you got sound is off.
Omusambi yaffe off. I'm
so saying that at the times in government programs, a lot of corruption is done with a lot of corruption is done with it. But I've seen of course, incidences where the government gives. However, these people that, of course,
abalisi
Netweso yona naye olumu ajja kaaba.
yes.
Olumu olumu Tracy. So